What's going on, family? This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Classes back in session with famous fights recalled. We're at the series number 8. And I want to go through this series with you right here on the Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Now, back in part 1, series number 6, I displayed a fight between Gentleman Jim Jeffries, the Boilermaker, and Sailor Tom Sharkey. Now, this fight took place November 3rd, 1899 in Coney Island, New York. Coney Island is located in Brooklyn. And the reason why this fight looks the way it looks, it has an arch to the particular photo, is because it was recorded in a cigar box. Fight films were outlawed at that particular time. And the only way this famous fight would be captured, it would be placed in a cigar box. Fascinating. I just wanted to share that with you. Jim Corbett defends his title against Tom Sharkey, and that fight was recorded in a cigar box. Now let's get on to part 2, series number 8 of famous fights recalled. Now here you have Mexican Joe Rivers versus Joe Matic. Now Mexican Joe Rivers was the fighter who was involved in a controversial double knockdown with Ad Wargas. That fight took place in 1913. And Ad Wargas had hired a referee by the name of Jack Welch. Jack Welch was the same referee that was in the controversial fight with Jack Johnson and Jess Willard. It took place in 1915 in Havana, Cuba. But Mexico Joe Rivers was a very good fighter. He was just involved in that scandal with Jack Welch, and the cause of a double knockdown would immediately go to Ad Wargas, who he actually worked for, and help up Ad Wargas as he was counting out Joe Rivers. Fascinating. But Joe Rivers is to your left here standing, and you have Joe Matic. And this fight took place in Vernon, California, November 28th, 1912, in the 20th round. Joe Rivers was born March 19th, 1892. He died June 26, 1957. Joe Matic was born August 3rd, 1889, and he died July 29th, 1956. Now, Rivers had a total bouts 82. He won 52. He knocked out 13 of his opponents, lost 18, 12 draws, and 12 no contests, 2 no contests. Now, Joe Matic, his nickname was the Baker Boy. His family were bakers, so they called him the Baker Boy. But it was a pretty good fight. Joe Rivers won that fight November 28th, 1912. Now here you have George Chip, who would be middleweight champion of the world with his defeat of Frank Klaus, versus Jack Dillon, the Giant Slayer. Jack Dillon would become light heavyweight champion after Bob Fitzsimmons. George Chip was born August 25th, 1888, and died November 8th, 1960. He stood 5 foot 8 inches and weighed 157 to 164 pounds. Like I said, he defeated Frank Klaus for the middleweight championship of the world. Jack Dillon was born February 2nd, 1891, and he died August 7th, 1942. He would stand 5 foot 7.5 inches and weigh anywhere between 140 to 183.5 pounds. His fighting record was 94-7-14 with 64 KOs and an astonishing 129 no contests. That fight took place in Dayton, Ohio, 1911. Dillon would defeat George Chip. They fought 9 times. Fascinating. Now here you have Johnny Dundee versus Johnny Kilbane. Johnny Dundee was born November 22nd, 1893. He died April 22nd, 1965. He stood 5 foot 4.5 inches and weighed anywhere between 105 and 130 pounds. Johnny Dundee was called the Scotch Wop. He had a fighting record of 90-31-19 with 22 knockouts and 194 no decision fights. He's a featherweight champion of the world. That fight took place in Vernon, California, February 22nd, 1913. Johnny Kilbane was born April 18th, 1889, Cleveland, Ohio. He died May 31st, 1957 in Cleveland, Ohio, and had a fighting record of 51, 4-7, and 25 knockouts. He himself had 78 no decisions, and that fight was a 20-round draw. That was actually a fascinating fight. As I had explained about the Scotch Wop Johnny Dundee before, he was known as straddling the ropes. He was an outstanding rope boxer. He would ride the ropes, pull his man into the ropes, spin his man around, hook off the ropes. Beautiful fighter was Johnny Dundee. Now here you have Paulinho Escudon. He would fight Arthur Townley. This fight would take place in Paris, France. Now they would call Paulinho Escudon the Basque wood chopper. That was his nickname. And that fight took place 55 seconds in the first round in Paris, France. Now, Paulinho Escudon was born May 3rd, 1899 in Spain, and he died July 5th, 1985 in Spain as well. He stood 5'10". He was a heavyweight, and his trade was martial arts. He actually knew martial arts. Art Townley stood 5 foot 5 inches. He was short for a heavyweight, but he was a very, very good fighter himself. Let me correct that. He was 5 foot 9 inches. Still fairly short for today's heavyweights. But that was a very, very good fight that took place in Paris, France. Let me show you our picture of Paulinho Escudon. Now this is Paulinho Escudon. Shout out to the sister Lala D. She was asking me about Paulinho Escudon. So this is Paulinho Escudon. He was from Spain, and he was the heavyweight that we're talking about now. But he was also the heavyweight that Max Schmeling was studying on a fight film with Joe Louis. And that was the famous I've seen something when he noticed Joe Louis dropped his left jab after he shot it out. Left hand would come back low, was vulnerable for a chasing right hand. Paulinho Escudon. Now here you have Mexican Joe Rivers fighting a fighter by the name of Knockout Brown. And this was on the undercard of Johnny Dundee and Johnny Kilbane. On the undercard of that fight. It was a very good fight. But Knockout Brown, or KO Brown, excuse me, he would win the fight that particular evening. And here you had Pete Herman. He knocked out Jim Higgins in London in the 11th round, July 11th, 1921. That was a very good fight as well. So I just wanted to go over part 2 of Famous Fights Recalled. Boxing has a very rich history. And the thing with mankind, it doesn't change. No matter which era you're reviewing. The only thing that changes is the mindset. It goes with time. It goes with economy. And once you understand the nature of man through knowledge of oneself, you realize it's all a matter of how you view and make judgments of life itself. So when it comes to fighting, the whole object of it is to complete your task. You can either knock the opponent out, meaning you get the job done and over with and move on, or you can finish no matter what happens to you. You have a cut eye, or from an uppercut you bite your jaw. You get sweat running into your eyes. You break your hand. All these things are foundations of life. But the mark of any human being is not what happens to them. It's what they do when it happens to them. And when you look at fighters from turn of the century on, they explain very clearly what they did when something happened to them. And that's the reason why I view this channel. Because I'm trying to open up the imagination of the thought process of today's fighters, fight fans, my audience. The excuses you see in boxing today, it's a facade. It's a game that's being played. Don't allow yourself to be tricked into that game. You yourself know that if you don't pay your bills in time, you're going to pay consequences. They'll shut your lights off. They'll repossess your car. You have to complete the task. So this ducking and dodging that's going on in boxing today, hopefully after you review a lot of these series that I'm showing you, you'll understand what's really happening. This is Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Great fighters will never be forgotten on my channel. I just want to show you one more fight before I exit this particular video. Right here you're looking at Harry Greb, one of the greatest middleweights of all time, Tommy Gibbons. He had a brother by the name of Mike Gibbons, another great middleweight. I just want to quickly show you that fight. The fight took place and Harry Greb was basically the winner. He's on your left. Tommy Gibbons was on your right. It took place at Madison Square Garden, 1922. Now, as I mentioned to you before, Harry Greb was a middleweight. He was originally a light heavyweight. He won the ABF Light Heavyweight Championship from Gene Tunney. And Harry Greb had one eye. He had impaired vision in one of his eyes. And for the amount of fights that he fought, the fighters in which he fought, how he fought them, champions or Hall of Famers he fought heavyweights, as did Sam Langford. It's a prime example of what I'm talking about. That's why I salute these fighters. But I want to show you a quick example of that fight. I just pulled out the Harry Greb scrapbook because I was trying to look up some research, so I have it out. So let me show you that fight between Harry Greb and Tom Gibbons. Now this is the fight between Harry Greb and Tommy Gibbons. Greb beats Gibbons in bout for charity. Now this was a charity bout that took place in Pittsburgh. As you can see here, the Pittsburgh Tornado outpoints Tom in 15 rounds, but winner seems too light to tackle Jack Dempsey. And as I said, it was a 15-round bout that was scheduled for Madison Square Garden on the night of March 13th. So just food for thought when you're watching these fights today. Just pay close attention on the excuses you hear when fights are being offered or trying to be made. The Scrapbook Boxing Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series. Salute to my subscribers. Salute to these great fighters. Once again, look out for Ringside Historians, myself, Curtis Sugar, and phenomenal historian, retro boxing and documentaries. Check out his new